Why is it that you can laugh, smile, and even achieve things, yet something inside you still feels empty? You look around and see other people enjoying life so easily. They celebrate small moments, feel excited about the future, and seem naturally happy, while you feel like happiness slips through your fingers no matter how hard you try to hold onto it. You begin to wonder if something is wrong with you, if you are broken in a way no one else seems to be. But the truth is far more complex, and far more human than you have ever been told. From a young age, you learn to observe the world differently. While others felt emotions freely, you learned to analyze them. Instead of simply feeling joy, you questioned it. You wondered how long it would last, what it would cost you, and what pain would follow after it faded. This habit did not come from nowhere. It was shaped slowly, quietly, through experiences that taught your mind that happiness is temporary, unreliable, or even dangerous. When happiness disappears too often, the brain stops trusting it. Your mind is not designed to chase happiness the way social media and society tell you it should. Instead, it is designed to protect you. If you grew up in an environment where joy was followed by disappointment, where excitement was punished, or where emotional needs were ignored, your brain adapted. It learned to stay alert, to expect loss, and to prepare for emotional impact. Over time, this survival mechanism becomes so strong that happiness feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. You might notice that when something good happens, your first reaction is not joy but anxiety. You wait for it to end, you wait for the catch, you ask yourself what will go wrong next. This is not pessimism, this is conditioning. Your nervous system has learned that calm moments are not safe because in the past, calm was often followed by chaos. So instead of relaxing into happiness, your body stays tense, ready to defend itself. Another reason happiness feels distant is because you learn to suppress your emotions. At some point, expressing feelings may have felt pointless or unsafe. Maybe no one listened. Maybe your emotions were minimized. Maybe you were told to be strong, to stop overreacting, or to be grateful instead of honest. Slowly, you shut parts of yourself down. You became functional, responsible, and controlled, but emotionally disconnected. Happiness cannot exist where emotions are locked away. You may also compare your inner world to other people's outer lives. You see their highlights, their smiles, their success, but you do not see their struggles. Your mind fills in the gaps and convinces you that everyone else is living a life full of joy while you are somehow left behind. This comparison creates a silent shame. You feel guilty for not being happy, as if happiness is something you are failing at. But happiness is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or don't have. It is a temporary emotional state, influenced by biology, psychology, and life experience. Some people feel happiness easily because their nervous systems feel safe. Others struggle because their minds learn to prioritize survival over pleasure. Neither is a choice. There is also the weight of unmet expectations. You were told that certain achievements would make you happy. Success, love, stability, recognition. You reached some of them or at least moved closer, and yet the emptiness remained. This creates confusion. If happiness didn't arrive after doing everything right, then what is missing? The answer is not more achievement. It is emotional connection, meaning, and permission to feel without fear. Your brain chemistry also plays a role. Chronic stress, unresolved trauma, and long-term emotional suppression can dull the brain's reward system. Dopamine and serotonin stop responding the way they used to. Things that once felt exciting now feel neutral. This does not mean you are incapable of happiness. It means your system is exhausted. You are not empty, you are overwhelmed. Deep down, you may also carry the belief that happiness is not meant for you. This belief is rarely conscious. It forms quietly through repeated emotional disappointments. Each time happiness was taken away, mocked, or made conditional, your mind learned to expect less. Over time, expecting less became normal. Wanting more started to feel dangerous. So when you see others feeling joy, it feels foreign. Not because you lack the ability to feel happiness, but because your mind has been protecting you for too long. It forgot how to rest. It forgot how to trust good moments. It forgot how to feel without analyzing every emotion for hidden threats. And yet, despite all this, happiness is not gone. It is not something you lost forever. It is something your mind put away for safekeeping. The problem is not that you don't feel happiness like others do. The problem is that your mind learned a different way to survive. And survival for you came at the cost of joy. As you grew older, this emotional distance didn't disappear. It evolved. You learned how to function without feeling deeply. You learned how to smile without joy, how to achieve without fulfillment, and how to move forward while feeling stuck inside. On the outside, you appeared calm, capable, and even successful. On the inside, something always felt missing. Not sadness exactly, but a quiet emptiness that followed you everywhere, no matter where you went or what you did. This is what happens when a person learns early on that their emotional needs will not be met. The brain adapts by lowering expectations. It tells you not to hope too much, not to want too much, not to feel too much. Because wanting leads to disappointment and feeling leads to pain. Over time, you don't just suppress sadness, you suppress everything, joy included. Happiness doesn't disappear alone. It fades alongside curiosity, excitement, and emotional warmth. You may notice that you feel most comfortable when you are distracted. When your mind is busy, working, scrolling, watching, or planning, silence makes you uncomfortable. Stillness feels heavy. That is because when there is nothing to distract you, your suppressed emotions try to surface. Not loudly but subtly, as restlessness, as numbness, as the feeling that something is wrong even when nothing is happening. Many people mistake this for depression, but often it is emotional disconnection. Depression feels heavy and painful. Emotional disconnection feels flat and distant. You are not necessarily sad. You are just not alive in the way others seem to be. Moments pass without leaving an emotional trace. Days blur together. Life feels like something you are observing rather than experiencing. This disconnection is often misunderstood by others. They may tell you to be grateful, to think positive, to focus on the good things in your life. But gratitude cannot repair a nervous system that never learned safety. Positivity cannot replace emotional validation. When your inner world has been ignored or invalidated for too long, happiness does not respond to logic. It responds to safety. You may also struggle to feel happiness because your self-worth became conditional. Somewhere along the way, you learned that you were valued for what you could do, not for who you were. Praise came when you performed well. Love came when you behaved correctly. Attention came when you were useful. This taught your mind that rest is risky, that joy must be earned, and that happiness is allowed only after productivity. So even when you finally stop and try to enjoy life, your mind does not relax. It whispers that you are wasting time, that you should be doing more, that you haven't earned peace yet. This constant inner pressure makes happiness feel undeserved. You can be surrounded by comfort and still feel uneasy because your sense of worth is tied to effort, not existence. Another invisible barrier to happiness is unresolved grief. Not just grief from loss, but grief from the life you didn't get to live. The childhood where you felt safe, the version of yourself that felt free, the relationships that never gave you what you needed. This grief doesn't always show itself as sadness. Sometimes it shows itself as numbness, as a refusal to fully engage with life because engaging reminds you of what was missing. You might also carry emotional responsibility that was never meant to be yours. You may have learned to be the strong one, the listener, the problem solver. You held space for others while no one held space for you. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion. When you spend your life managing emotions rather than experiencing them, happiness feels like a luxury you cannot afford. Your brain, constantly alert and overworked, begins to associate emotional depth with danger. Strong emotions mean vulnerability. Vulnerability means risk, and risk feels unsafe. So your mind chooses neutrality. It chooses emotional distance, not because it wants to deprive you of happiness, but because it believes this is the safest way to exist. This is why happiness feels effortless for some people and unreachable for others. It is not about mindset. It is about nervous system history. Some people grew up feeling emotionally safe. Their bodies learned that joy does not come with consequences. Others learned that joy attracts loss, criticism, or abandonment. Their bodies never learned how to relax into good moments. You may notice that when something truly good happens, you downplay it. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. You lower your excitement. You keep your expectations small. This is emotional self-protection. If you don't fully feel happiness, you won't fully feel its loss. But this protection comes at a cost. Life becomes muted, safe but colorless. And yet, even now, your desire to understand why you don't feel happiness like others do is proof that something inside you is still alive. Numbness is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of too much emotion that was never processed. Your mind didn't shut down because it failed. It shut down because it was overwhelmed. The truth is, happiness has never been your problem. Safety has, connection has, permission to feel has. And until those things are addressed, happiness will always feel distant, fragile, or artificial. Not because you are incapable of it, but because your system learned to survive without it. The reason happiness feels so unnatural to you is because your body never learned how to stay in it. For you, happiness was never a resting place. It was a brief pause between moments of tension. So when happiness appears now, your system treats it like a visitor who will leave soon, not like something that belongs. Your muscles stay tight, your breathing stays shallow, your thoughts stay alert, you are present but not relaxed, and happiness cannot grow in a body that is always bracing for impact. Safety is the foundation of happiness, yet safety is not something you consciously think about. It is something your nervous system decides for you. When your nervous system does not feel safe, it keeps you in a state of subtle vigilance. You may not feel anxious, but you are never fully at ease. This is why happiness feels unreachable even when life is calm. Calm feels unfamiliar. Calm feels suspicious. Your body learned that stillness meant something bad was about to happen. This is also why you may feel most alive during moments of stress or urgency. When there is pressure, deadlines, or emotional intensity, your system knows what to do. It has been trained for that. Chaos feels familiar. Struggle feels normal. Peace feels foreign. So when life finally slows down, instead of relief, you feel restless. Instead of joy, you feel empty. Your system does not know how to exist without tension. You might also notice that you intellectualize your emotions. Instead of feeling them, you analyze them. You try to understand why you feel the way you do, where it comes from, and what it means. This is another survival strategy. Thinking feels safer than feeling. Logic feels controllable. Emotions feel unpredictable. But happiness cannot be accessed through analysis. It must be felt in the body, and that requires vulnerability. Another reason happiness feels distant is because you learn to associate love with effort. You had to earn attention, earn approval, earn affection. Love was not something freely given, it was conditional. So now, when something good happens without effort, your mind doesn't know how to receive it. You wait for the condition. You look for the hidden cost. You assume there is something you will have to give up in return. You may also struggle with happiness because your identity was built around endurance. You are the one who survives, the one who keeps going, the one who holds everything together. Happiness threatens this identity. If you stop struggling, who are you? If you stop enduring, what remains? Sometimes, letting go of pain feels like losing a part of yourself, even when that pain no longer serves you. There is also the fear that if you allow yourself to feel happy, you will jinx it, that happiness will attract loss, that enjoying life too much will somehow punish you. This belief is irrational but deeply ingrained. It comes from repeated emotional disappointment, where good moments were followed by pain. Your mind learned to associate happiness with vulnerability, and vulnerability feels dangerous. So instead of fully feeling joy, you keep one foot out the door. You enjoy things halfway. You smile, but you don't sink into the moment. You experience life with emotional armor on. This armor once protected you. Now it keeps happiness at a distance. You may also feel disconnected from your own desires. You don't know what truly makes you happy anymore. You pursue goals because they make sense, not because they feel right. You follow paths that look successful, not ones that feel meaningful. Over time, this creates a life that looks full from the outside but feels empty on the inside. Happiness cannot grow where authenticity is missing. Your emotional numbness is not a flaw, it is a response to being overwhelmed, unheard, or emotionally unsafe for too long. Your system learned to shut down to survive, and once that shutdown becomes familiar, feeling alive again feels risky. Your body resists it, not because it wants to stay numb, but because it does not yet trust that aliveness will not hurt. This is why forcing happiness never works. Positive thinking feels fake, gratitude feels shallow, motivational words feel hollow, because the issue is not mindset, it is memory. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. It remembers every time happiness was followed by loss, every time hope led to disappointment, every time vulnerability was punished. And yet, something important is happening right now. The fact that you are questioning your inability to feel happiness means that part of you is waking up. You are no longer fully numb. You are becoming aware of the distance. Awareness is uncomfortable, but it is also the beginning of reconnection. Happiness is not something you need to chase. It is something that returns when your system feels safe enough to let it in. And safety does not come from controlling your thoughts. It comes from allowing yourself to feel slowly, gently, without judgment. You are not behind in life, you are not broken, you are not incapable of joy. You simply learned a different way to survive. And survival for a long time was more important than happiness. At some point, you may begin to notice that your distance from happiness is not constant. There are brief moments when something softens inside you, a quiet evening, a familiar song, a genuine connection, even if it lasts only a few seconds. These moments don't explode into joy. They don't feel overwhelming, they feel subtle, almost fragile, and because they are so unfamiliar, you might dismiss them. You tell yourself they don't count, but they do. They are signs that your system is not broken, only cautious. For a long time, you believed happiness was supposed to feel loud, exciting, obvious, but for someone who has lived in emotional survival mode, happiness returns quietly. It arrives as calm, as relief, as the absence of tension. And because your mind has been trained to scan for danger, calm can feel empty instead of peaceful. You confuse safety with boredom. You confuse peace with meaninglessness. But peace is not meant to entertain you, it is meant to hold you. You may also realize that you have been waiting for happiness to arrive before allowing yourself to rest. You tell yourself that once you feel better, you will slow down. Once life improves, you will enjoy it. But your nervous system does not work that way. Rest is not the reward for happiness. Rest is the doorway to it. Without rest, your system stays in defense mode. And happiness cannot exist where there is no permission to stop. There is also a quiet grief in letting go of who you had to become to survive. You had to be strong when you were tired. You had to be mature when you were young. You had to be understanding when you needed understanding. That version of you deserves respect. But it is not the only version you are allowed to be. Healing does not mean erasing your strength. It means no longer needing it all the time. You may feel resistance when you begin to soften, guilt for resting, discomfort in receiving, fear of needing others. These reactions are not signs of weakness. They are signs that your system is adjusting. When you have spent years being emotionally self-sufficient, allowing support feels unsafe. Letting others see you feels risky, but happiness is relational. It grows in connection, not isolation. You might also notice that you have been emotionally loyal to your pain. It shaped you. It made you who you are. Letting go of it feels like betrayal, but pain does not need loyalty. It needs acknowledgement. You can honor what you survived without continuing to live inside it. Healing does not erase your past. It integrates it. Another shift begins when you stop asking why you are not happy and start asking what your body needs to feel safe. Safety might look like slowing down your pace. It might look like boundaries. It might look like expressing emotions without explaining them. It might look like allowing yourself to enjoy something without questioning it. These small acts rebuild trust between you and your inner world. You also begin to realize that happiness is not the opposite of sadness. They can exist together. You can carry grief and still experience moments of peace. You can feel broken and still feel alive. Waiting to be fully healed before allowing happiness keeps it permanently out of reach. Life is not meant to be emotionally perfect before it becomes meaningful. As you reconnect with yourself, you may feel emotions you avoided for years. Sadness, anger, longing, this can be frightening. It may feel like things are getting worse, but this is not regression. This is thawing. Numbness protected you by freezing emotion. Healing allows feeling to return, and feeling includes everything, not just happiness. You may also have to unlearn the belief that your value comes from productivity, that you are only worthy when you are useful. Happiness challenges this belief. It exists without output. It does not need justification. Letting yourself feel okay without earning it can feel deeply uncomfortable at first, but this discomfort is not danger. It is unfamiliar freedom. Slowly, your definition of happiness begins to change. It no longer looks like constant excitement. It looks like alignment, like being present without force, like choosing things that feel right instead of things that look impressive. This version of happiness is quieter, but it lasts longer. It does not depend on outcomes. It depends on honesty. You are not trying to become someone new. You are remembering who you were before you learned to protect yourself by shutting down. That version of you is still there, waiting, not demanding, just waiting for permission. And one day, without realizing when it happened, you may notice that the emptiness is no longer as loud, that moments linger a little longer, that peace feels less suspicious, that happiness does not feel like something you are chasing, but something you are slowly allowing. There comes a moment when you stop waiting for happiness to feel the way it does for everyone else. Not because you have given up, but because you finally understand that your inner world was never meant to follow someone else's timeline. You stop measuring your emotions against other people's reactions. You stop asking why they laugh louder, dream bigger, or move through life with more ease. You realize that your path was shaped by different lessons, different losses, and different forms of strength. You begin to see that happiness was never absent from your life. It was simply overshadowed by vigilance, by responsibility, by the need to stay emotionally prepared. When you have spent years anticipating what could go wrong, your mind becomes skilled at scanning for threat but forgets how to notice peace. Happiness does not announce itself loudly in a system like yours. It waits quietly for you to stop bracing. One of the deepest shifts happens when you allow yourself to experience moments without trying to capture them. You no longer ask whether this moment will last. You no longer try to turn it into a memory or a meaning. You simply let it exist. This is where happiness begins to feel natural again, not intense, not overwhelming, just real. You also stop blaming yourself for the years you spent feeling disconnected. You understand now that emotional numbness was not a personal failure. It was a response to life asking too much of you too soon. You were not avoiding happiness. You were surviving, and survival always comes first. There is no shame in that. As you soften, you may notice that your emotions feel more fluid. You cry more easily. You laugh unexpectedly. You feel moved by small things. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is your system remembering how to feel. You are not becoming fragile. You are becoming honest. Happiness, when it returns, does not erase your pain. It coexists with it. It sits beside your scars instead of replacing them. This is the kind of happiness that feels safe because it is not dependent on perfection. It does not disappear the moment life becomes difficult. It remains steady, even when things are uncertain. You also begin to trust yourself again. You trust that you can feel deeply without falling apart. You trust that joy does not automatically lead to loss. You trust that even if happiness fades, you will survive its absence. This trust is what allows happiness to stay. Not control, not effort, trust. You stop chasing a version of happiness that was never designed for you. The constant excitement, the endless positivity, the pressure to always feel good. That version of happiness belongs to a story that was never yours. Yours is quieter, deeper, more resilient. It does not need validation. It does not need explanation. There may still be days when the emptiness returns, when life feels flat, when you question whether anything has truly changed. But now those moments do not define you. You understand them as signals, not truths, reminders to slow down, to reconnect, to listen to what your inner world is asking for. Over time, you stop seeing happiness as something you are missing and start seeing it as something you are learning to hold. Gently, without force, without fear. You stop asking why you don't feel happiness like others do, because you finally understand that your way of feeling was shaped by resilience, not deficiency. And in that understanding, something shifts, not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, the way real change always happens. You are not broken. You are adapting. And now you are allowing yourself to live.